Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to My Sports Vice. I appreciate you guys getting with us. This is the first video podcast that I've ever done. We're doing it for you on YouTube. You can listen to our podcast through iTunes or on our website as per usual. This will be the first podcast of the fantasy football season. I haven't done one since last season. I've been a little busy, and baseball, I just didn't have time to do all the research. I prefer to do football anyway, so here you go. This one's about the quarterbacks for this year, and these are my draft rankings. These are posted on My Sports Vice front page. You got my rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So let's talk about quarterbacks. Number one is Aaron Rodgers, of course. It could be Cam Newton. There can be an argument for either one of those two at number one. Rodgers is about as consistent as he gets, even though he didn't have his number one receiver last year, Jordy Nelson. He still threw for 31 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He's a great quarterback, makes something out of nothing. Even when he has a banged up line, he runs a little bit. He's got Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. They picked up, who did they pick up? They picked up Jared Cook at tight end. He'll be pretty good. And of course they're getting Jordy Nelson back. Now Jordy Nelson today got put on the PUP list, so he'll miss most of training camp, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. They're just keeping that knee rested through training camp, so he'll be fine, I think. And again, the argument would be against that would be Cam Newton. Cam Newton he's my number 2. He had a great season last year, 35 touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. And he had a lot of rushing yards. I think it was like 600 yards or something like that. And he did that without Kelvin Benjamin, who he's getting back this year, his number 1 receiver. And he's got Greg Olsen, who's a solid receiver. They have a decent running game. Cam Newton had a great year last year, and I don't know if he can keep it up. I get a little worried about quarterbacks that run so much, but he's so big and strong that that's not as big a concern as if a guy like Michael Vick or something like that. But Newton's my number 2. Number 3, I've got Andrew Luck. I know he had a terrible season last year, but he missed a lot of games. He had a ruptured spleen, and I think when he did play, he didn't play very well. He threw a lot more picks than he normally does, but I think he was playing hurt. So he has weapons there. They play on turf. I mean, he's got T.Y. Hilton, Moncrief. They've got Dwayne Allen. They don't have much of a running game. I think Andrew Luck's going to come back, strong this year. Their schedule's not that strong. I think he's a good safe pick at number 3. Number 4 is Ben Roethlisberger. They've been really airing it out in Pittsburgh. Now, I know he lost Le'Veon Bell again for a 4-game suspension, but last year D'Angelo Williams stepped in for Bell after he got hurt pretty well and had some really good numbers at the end of the year. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Antonio Brown's the best receiver in football. He's averaging 130 catches a year and 1,400 yards, something like that. And then they went and got Ladarius Green at tight end because Heath Miller retired. I've seen Ladarius Green play a lot in the preseason because he's playing behind Antonio Gates all those years in Chicago or in San Diego, and he's a good receiver. So I think he's going to step in and he's going to be surprising. I'd consider him a sleeper pick there, but Pittsburgh likes to throw the ball. Marcus Wheaton will end up taking the place of Martavius Bryant, who that idiot couldn't seem to put the bong down, so he's got suspended for the whole year. So Marcus Wheaton will step into that role. But Roethlisberger should have a good season. Number 5, Russell Wilson. He had a good year last year. The last 7 games of the season, he threw 24 touchdown passes. He went nuts at the end of the season last year. He stopped running the ball so much, and he's throwing the ball downfield. And that's with Jimmy Graham being hurt for most of the season, and not really, even when he did play, they really didn't utilize Jimmy Graham that much. And I think that's going to change this year. I think Wilson will have a good, solid year. Some people have him ranked higher than I do. I have him at number 5, but he's a good, solid pick. Drew Brees at number 6. That guy is about as consistent as it can be. He's been in the top 8 in quarterback scoring for the last 10 years in a row. He throws 600 times a year. It doesn't matter. They throw, throw, throw. It's just tough to pick a receiver for New Orleans because Brees is so good about spreading it out to all his receivers. But that doesn't really matter if you've got him because he throws and throws and throws. He's getting a little long in the tooth. He's 37, but I think he has one, maybe 2 good years left in him. They play on turf. Their schedule, they're playing on a lot of California games this year, so they're playing in ideal weather all season. Drew Brees, number 6. Carson Palmer, another guy that plays indoors, had a solid season last year. He has been injury prone over the years, but I like the way that offense is so open. Bruce Arians loves to go downfield. He's got good downfield receivers. Larry Fitzgerald has become a great underneath or slot receiver. And then this young running back, David Johnson, catches passes well out of the backfield. So I think Palmer will have another good year. Number 8, Eli Manning. I have him higher than most people do. A little bit higher. They throw the ball a lot. Now, Ben McAdoo, who's the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years, is now the head coach, and he loves to throw the ball. Obviously, Odell Beckham's one of the best receivers in football. They've got a decent tight end. Their running game stinks. So I like to see Manning throwing the ball a lot. And so if he doesn't throw as many picks as he usually does, he should be all right and put up good numbers. Number 9, Blake Bortles. He's obviously with Jacksonville. He's got some good young receivers there in Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns. He's got Julius Thomas at tight end. They've got a decent running game. I think he'll have a solid season. He should throw for 4,500 yards and probably 30-something touchdowns this year because they play from behind a lot. Number 10, I have Brady, Tom Brady. He's off. He's going to miss the first 4 games due to suspension. I wouldn't be discouraged by that if you can get a decent backup quarterback for the first 4 games and get through that. You know he's going to come back with a vengeance, and he should play really well, probably carry you to the playoffs at the end of the season if you can get through the first 4 games without him. I might even consider picking up Garoppolo really late in the draft and seeing how he does in the first 4 games. They picked up Martellus Bennett for the secondary tight end to Gronkowski. Chris Hogan is a nice little pickup. Edelman's going to be healthy. I think they're going to have Brady will have a good year. Romo, I have him at number 11. If he can stay upright and not fall down with a bad back again or broken collarbone, he'll be all right. They like to throw the ball. Dez Bryant's one of the best receivers in football. Terrence Williams is pretty good. Cole Beasley, Jason Witten, of course. And if Ezekiel Elliott is a good running back, they should have a good season. They should keep the pressure off of Romo, and he can go downfield. I have him at number 11. Number 12, I have Derek Carr for the Raiders. I have him higher than most. A lot of people have him ranked lower than I do, but I have him at number 12. He's got a great young receiver in Amari Cooper. I think they're working well together. He's got Michael Crabtree, who had quite a few good games towards the end of the season last year. They have a decent tight end in Walford, and they've got a good running game with Latavius Murray. So I think Oakland's up and coming, and I think they're going to air it out against teams like they have to play San Diego twice a year. They're going to put up some numbers. They really are. I like Derek Carr at number 12. Phillip Rivers at number 13. The only reason I have him this low is because he tends to fade towards the end of the season. He didn't so much last year as he did the year before that, but he had lost Keenan Allen to injury. He'll be back. Stevie Johnson's a good receiver. He's got Antonio Gates as usual. If Melvin Gordon can play well at running back, he didn't do very well last year, and they can establish a running game, I think Rivers will have a good season. He's got Woodhead coming out of the backfield. It's a nice little running back catching passes. Rivers is a good call at 13. At number 14, Tyrod Taylor. I mostly have him this high because he runs the ball well. He ran for 568 yards last year, which was second in the league behind Newton, and he had four rushing touchdowns. So he's pretty good. He's got Sammy Watkins at receiver. Charles Clay is a good tight end, and Sean McCoy is also a really good pass catching running back. He'll catch at least 40 balls a year. I'd expect Taylor to have a decent season. At number 15, I've got Matt Ryan. I was drafting him for a few years, and he's been pretty consistent. I have him a little bit higher than most. I don't know what everybody's so concerned about. He's thrown for 4,500 yards, at least 4,500 yards the last 4 years in a row. So I wouldn't be too concerned about him. He has Julio Jones. They went and got Mohamed Sanu from Cincinnati, who's going to replace Roddy White, that means that's an upgrade because Roddy White just went downhill age-wise. And then they've got Devontae Freeman out of the backfield too. Their tight end situation is a little shaky, but I don't see why Ryan can't throw for another 4,500 yards and maybe 30 touchdowns this year. Number 16, Andy Dalton. He was having his best statistical year of his career until he got hurt at the end. He missed the last 3 games of the season with a broken thumb. He did lose a couple of receivers in Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, but he still does have A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert. He's got Giovanni Bernard coming out of the backfield, who's a very good pass-catching receiver, and they picked up Brandon LaFell from New England. I think he'll have a solid season. Number 17, Stafford. That's a volume guy right there. I have him higher than most. Again, he's like Breeze. They throw 600 times a year, every year. He did lose Megatron. I don't think that's that big a deal. Golden Tate. He picked up Marvin Jones from Cincinnati. They have Eric Ebron at tight end, who's very good and young. And then they've got Theo Riddick, who caught 80 passes last year. He tied for first in the NFL for running backs with 80 catches last year. I like Stafford to put up some pretty good numbers. Number 18, Kirk Cousins. He came on strong at the end of the year. He threw 23 touchdowns in the last 10 games of the season. That was pretty impressive. Hopefully he can carry that over into this year. His confidence is real high. He's got some decent receivers. Jordan Reed is a great up-and-coming tight end, pass-catching tight end. I think he'll have a solid season. Number 19, Tannehill. At first I didn't have Tannehill in the top 20, and then I changed my mind a little bit because I thought about his head coach. The new head coach is Adam Gase, and he was the head coach the last 2 years in Denver as the offensive coordinator there. He likes to throw the ball, obviously. He's got some decent receivers with Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills. These are guys that like to go deep. They're fast. He's got Jordan Cameron at tight end. They just picked up Arian Foster. We'll see how that works out. But I'd like to see Miami throwing the ball a lot more this year, and Tannehill will benefit from that. And then at number 20, I have Jameis Winston. I have him actually a little bit lower than most people, but I think he'll have a decent season. I don't think they're a very good team, so they'll be playing from behind a lot. And, of course, Mike Evans is a beast. He's a great receiver, and Vincent Jackson still has a little bit left in the tank, so he's got some good receivers. He's got Austin Seferian-Jenkins at tight end, who's a solid tight end, and then Doug Martin coming out of the backfield. So I think he'll put up some decent numbers. Those are the top 20 quarterbacks. I have the ranks on my website, MySportsVice. Where is it? MySportsVice.com. Look it up. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be doing more podcasts for running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. I'll do a sleepers one later too. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time.